So a lot of common advice you see written about is just leave the dogs to cry it out. They'll get used to it in their own time.
Oh, I hate this. I feel so bad when I hear this. I have heard this so many times. And so, please don't, if someone told you that, just understand that this is about the, the, not about you believing that, but about just wishing that people thought differently about this. With separation anxiety and any sort of separation behavior generally, other than like boredom, it's usually the dog is struggling, and so leaving them to cry it out, um, what that means is just let them struggle. And so, struggle in and of itself isn't horrible, but that's not why we have dogs. So they can be miserable. And so we have to sort of, I feel like we owe it to our dogs. Me personally, I owe it to my dogs. And I want to give them the best life I possibly can. And part of that, a big skill of that is, so because of the way we live, and that our dogs don't get to go everywhere with us, it's a really important skill for our dogs to learn to be okay by themselves and to be comfortable being alone. And so it is a very important skill. And so leaving a dog to cry it out, if the dog didn't really have separation related behaviors and then they cried for a couple of minutes, that would be one thing. But when we're talking about dogs who cry for hours and hours, and then until they exhaust themselves, and then they get up and cry and howl, and all of that again, it's just heartbreaking because that is just a really unhappy dog. So we don't need, our dogs don't need to live like that. We don't need to live like that. Our neighbors probably don't want us to live like that. So they don't, so let's give that dog some help. Let's give him some skills that will mean that dog gets to be comfortable when you're gone. And so yeah, cry it out is never a thing that I go for. It is not something that I believe in. It was definitely, when I had my own separation anxiety dog, that was definitely something I was told, that she'll just get over it. And the truth is, it blew up on me. I mean,
Yeah.
she became a master at escape. She would break windows and open doors. She would hurt herself. It was really a dangerous situation to allow her to cry it out. And not every dog progresses to that, but enough do that I wouldn't risk it. I want to get in there when I'm first noticing those signs of discomfort, get in there and address them as quickly as possible. That's what I learned. I like to share the benefit of my hard won lesson with my separation anxiety dog, is that we just don't let that keep going, because that's it's not good for the health of the dog. It's not good for your health. It's not good for your relationships with your neighbors. It's really an awful situation. So nope, no cry it out. Just say no to cry it out is what I say. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, and I love the way you said it's a skill because as we get young, any dog, or even like a recent rescue, we have to teach them where to go to the toilet. We have to teach them how to walk nicely so that we're both safe on a walk. It's a skill to be able to be home alone. And I feel like quite often it's completely overlooked as a basic skill to teach a dog.
Mm-hmm.
It's just expected. They just do it. Because you hear the stories of, oh my dog's fine, we just left them. And so it is a really important life skill that gets forgotten about. And I think if a dog is that distressed that it's crying and crying and crying, it's not learning to trust you. It's saying, I'm absolutely freaking out, and yet you're my main caregiver and you can't be bothered to come to me. You can't, you're not helping me. And the dogs that have a more secure attachment, in secure attachment theory, has been very well researched, is actually they're the dogs that are more resilient. But if they
Mm-hmm.
can't trust you, then they're not going to want you to go, because if something happens, where are you? And on a hormonal level, it's really dangerous, because just think, it's all those really nasty brain altering hormones that are
Mm-hmm.
lodging in their bodies. And quite often for younger dogs, under 2 years, the puppies and the adolescents, which really do show up on separation anxiety more commonly, is
Right.
they're developing with these really toxic hormones, and that's how their brains are going to be wired for like the rest of their adult lives. And it's not something we want to be able to live with. So it's a real skill. I was told the same thing, just leave it to cry it out. And then you hear, but don't go into them when they're making a noise because you're rewarding the barking. And yet that it couldn't be further from the truth because actually what you're doing is you're reassuring a very distressed animal. It's very different from an attention bark where a dog barks at you, maybe looks at the ball, looks at you, bark, bark, and then you go and get the ball. They've trained you to go and get the ball. But in the context of being alone and the difference, the body language, I know, we'll touch on that later, but the body language, it is continued. And I used to be sat at the top of my stairs crying myself for about 2 hours because my dog didn't stop. And I was told, don't go back to her till she's quiet.
Oh,
And she wasn't quiet for literally three
I
seconds.
know.
Just as I started going down the stairs, she'd start up again. I'm like, what do I do? And I was so distressed. And it was unhealthy for me. We both became unhealthy. As soon as we stopped that, our relationship grew, the trust grew, and do you know what? She was a much, much easier dog to live with. So yeah, this crying out, it doesn't work. The dog cries, no one comes to it. It might shut up, but it doesn't feel any different. And that is not a happy, contented dog. They've still got all that hormones, toxic hormones going into their brain. Just because they're not noisy doesn't mean they're not upset. So yeah,
Right.
I love the fact that it should be on the curriculum. As soon as you get a puppy, toilet training, handling, so that they can be
Yes.
groomed all over. Even if they're a short-haired dog, they still need brushing and nail clips and baths because I'm sure they want
Right.
a spoon. And home alone. All
Yep.
the sit, the paw, all of that. No, that can wait. It's building that trust.
Right. And yeah, and the way we do it is not by leaving them alone for 8 hours all of a sudden.
Or even for 20 minutes if there's
Right.
if they're holding that long. I'm sorry.
Right. Oh yes, absolutely. Even
Don't
20
leave a
minutes
dog
can
for
be a
eight
long time.
hours unattended, but if a
Yeah.
dog is that upset, you don't leave it for 20 minutes.
No, absolutely not. No,
Problem.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree. That type, that level of stress that adolescents and young dogs, puppies can feel actually does have long-term repercussions for their brains. So it's very important, and there's a lot of research about that. And it's really important to make sure that you give those puppies and those adolescent dogs a lot of opportunity to learn those skills. And the other piece of that, Joe, is even with a normal dog, those skills are just they're going to go up and down. They're not, they're going to have times where it's harder for them to do it. And, adolescence is known for its big feelings. For me personally, I had a lot of big feelings in my adolescence. And so do our adolescent dogs. We're mammals and we sort of share the same kind of emotional systems, I would say. So yeah, a lot of big emotions, and so it can be learning to regulate and be okay, self-regulate and be okay. That's a big part of what dogs have to learn too, and we just take it for granted, don't we? We just take it for granted if we've had a dog who made that look easy, that it wasn't hard to do, but it's a some dogs struggle with it a little more than others, and that's actually normal. So yeah.